So, my special guest today is Maya Smart, and she is the author of a book called Reading for Our Lives, and it promotes literacy, which I'm always 100% for. And I think I learned everything, almost everything I did by reading and learning, and really pursuing reading. It really sparked my curiosity. So, Maya, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yes, and tell us the full title because I know there's a subtitle also. It's Reading for Our Lives.
Reading for Our Lives, a literacy action plan from birth to six. And I started with birth just to get people thinking about reading and literacy, even in the years long before formal school starts.
Yes, yes. Well, I know my mom always wanted me to read, and she started teaching me for when I was 2 years old. And I think that's why I just kept reading voraciously. And to this day, I'm still a voracious reader. I love to read. So that's definitely a good plan. So tell us, like in the book, do you have tips for families, for people as far as, how to get their kids interested in reading?
Yes, just like you described that interaction with your mom and conversation and her teaching you from a very young age. Those are some of the things that I describe in the book. I really encourage parents to spend a lot of time in the time they already spend with their child and
Mhm.
everyday moments like cooking and cleaning and changing diapers and getting ready for bed, just to find ways to weave literacy and language into that, even when there isn't a book in hand. People don't realize that so much of reading begins before that, just with conversation and learning words and what they mean and being interested in language.
Exactly. Yes, you're absolutely right. I think people think reading, okay, so you have to have a book in front of you, but you're absolutely right. We were just discussing before we started recording that even recipes, like if you just mentioned, do cooking, you can teach kids how to read a recipe. If they can't, if they're too young to read all the words, right? You teach them how to read at least some of that, and just doing that, or as you said, I know somebody that couldn't get their son to read or be interested in it, and they realized he was really interested in sports. So what they did was they really pursued, buying him anything involving the sports that he liked. I think it was baseball and basketball, football. So he learned how to read really well because he was reading all these sports and books, and he could tell you the averages, all these averages and all this stuff about the players and all that. And he started reading because they kind of figured out how to get him to read through his love of sports. So
It's definitely about building those bridges between what the child is interested in and what you want them to learn. And so,
right.
sports, cooking, whatever a child is interested in, parents should feel really empowered that they can make a literacy connection. And it can be in small ways. Like it doesn't even have to be initially a big book on sports. It could
uh,
be a baseball card. And you're talking to them about the letters or the number on the player's jersey or these little entry points, and we can learn as parents to make letters and make print a topic of conversation and really bridge to kids' interests. If you think about a recipe card with a really little one, it's a valuable lesson for them to know that there's something on that piece of paper that has some relationship between these things you're measuring or stirring, or so it's a big lesson for them even to understand that print, whatever magical thing is on that card, means something that affects the actions you take in the kitchen. So even that is a powerful lesson before you get into letters or words, just that there's meaning in print.
Exactly. So I know you said something about a plan from birth through six. What do what do people do, like, before let's say somebody is one or even two? What are some of the tips you would give someone?
So for parents of really young children, I encourage them to just talk. And for a lot of people, they think, well, why would I talk to a baby? A baby can't respond. They're not speaking back to me in words. But what we have to remember is that they will learn to speak and respond by hearing us speak. And that
Exactly.
they are communicating, they're cooing, they're babbling, they're turning their head to look at something or kind of gesturing. And so we
Exactly.
have to learn to tune in and pay attention and respond to all of those things as if it were a conversation. So talking is really important with babies. And
Uh-huh.
even with a 6-month-old, start to use those board books or the big books where they can feel textures or, things pop up and all those little interactive things with, there are also a brand of book called Indestructible that they
Uh-huh.
can try to tear and throw around and they can't ruin them, but there's
Right.
something powerful about learning just from interacting with the book object before they even know to tune into the text.
Wow. And people don't realize, so babies have their own kind of language, and it's not like they don't communicate how we communicate, right? Because they can't yet, but they do communicate. I love that you said that. They do communicate. So you have to kind of tune into how they're communicating, because they are really responding. It's just that they're not responding the way somebody, an adult, would with like a fully developed, right? So but they are communicating, and they do respond, but it's in their own way that they can respond. I think that's wonderful. So how did you get into, I guess one of my questions would be, how it's such an interesting book, and as I told you, I'm so glad there's somebody promoting literacy, because I think it's so important. How did you decide to write this book?
When I had my daughter, she's now 11, so I have a middle schooler. But when I was a new mom, I was just really curious, as also a book lover, how do
Uh-huh.
you actually get a child to love reading? And then my
Uh-huh.
questions got more specific. Well, how do they, before they can even love it, they have to know how to do it. And I didn't remember
Right.
being taught because I wasn't
Right.
a reader. I didn't remember reading lessons, or
Uh-huh.
I just always remember knowing how to do it. And
Uh-huh.
so I read a lot of news articles. I took a class on the foundations of reading instruction. I started reading the articles that were listed in the footnotes of other articles. So it just became this big personal quest to figure out, what am I supposed to do with my daughter at, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, all
Right.
these different points in time to help her become a
Uh-huh.
strong, skilled, fluent reader. And
Right.
then over time, I discovered that it wasn't just me that didn't know the details of how to do this. It's most
Right.
parents, and also a lot of teachers don't. So
They
it's really, it was super helpful once I knew I wanted to share.
That's great. Yes, that's great that you did that, because yeah, I know there are teachers and, from other parents that I speak to, they don't have a clue. And it's, even the teachers don't. So, and reading is just so important. It really is a foundation for any career that anybody could have. And I just value, my love of reading in everything that I've ever done. I really was able to learn, even more about what I wanted to do, and more about whatever I was doing, whatever career or whatever my career. So it's definitely a more than valuable skill. So that's great that for some reason I thought you were a teacher, and you just so no, you're a mom who wanted to teach others how to instill that. So you said you have a daughter. Is she middle schooler now still?
Yeah, she is. And it was funny. We were actually, she wanted to make some pancakes over the weekend.
Right.
And
Uh-huh.
so she gets the box out, and she normally makes French toast with her dad, and he doesn't use a recipe. So he wasn't around. She wanted to make pancakes. And I'm like, well, just, read the instructions. And
Uh-huh.
so even with a middle schooler, you still need those skills. So it's a different, different
Yes.
levels, and you have to learn and
Exactly.
figure things out. And so it was
Exactly.
fun. It's just fun to watch them not only read literature and things that they're assigned in school, but there was something neat about just in that casual everyday context, her
Uh-huh.
being able to get what she needed by reading.
By
And I feel like,
reading.
wow, like, it's just a major life skill. And we, as skilled, fluent adult readers, like we overestimate or underestimate how hard it is for people to get to that point. But there are like millions of Americans who can't read well enough to read the pancake recipe off the box and find the ingredients and, read the labels and
Yes.
measure. And
You
there's so
are absolutely right. I was just so surprised because, you or I probably just assume, we've done it, you read just like voraciously. It sounds like you're you love to read too. So you just assume, but yes, there are lots of people out there that, and it's probably because of either the education system or something was broken there that, they didn't get the encouragement, or whatever, or the proper instruction to, just, and I think that it's like a domino effect, right? So once you get them started on loving to read, you probably just let them go and, they'll start reading away, but it's just getting that start and getting them really into that. And it's definitely, I mean, the younger that you would start getting into something, their minds are like sponges when they're young, or so they can pretty much.
There's so much brain development that happens in those first few years.
Exactly. So it's much easier to do it then, but if someone does not have that skill, definitely I would recommend pursuing, that. But yeah, it's frightening, and I never really realized it until the last few years, and it's really a shame. But anyway, so tell everyone, where can they find that book?
Yes, Reading for Our Lives, a literacy action plan from birth to six is available at all the major booksellers, so Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble, and also at independent booksellers online. So if you go to my website, which is just my name, Maya Smart, MAYASMART.com/book, I have links to all the different booksellers that have it. And it's also available as an audiobook. So you can
Oh,
listen to me read it for 6 hours or however long the audiobook is. But that was a really fun experience to record the audiobook myself as opposed to having a professional voice actor or someone do it, because
yes,
I got to revisit all of those tips and advice. And
exactly.
one, it took, I think maybe it was 2 days that it takes to record it, because you'll misspeak and have to go back and say something again or mispronounce someone's name. But it was fun for me to hear the book as well. And I was
Oh, wow.
happy
That's
to have
great.
compiled all this stuff and practical,
Yes,
easy.
and also I love that you did that because, everybody's so busy now, and with the audiobook, there's no excuse. They can listen to it in the car, on the train, anywhere they're at while they're relaxing outside. Now it's summertime. If you're on the beach, you can listen to it anywhere. So, that's great. So it's an audiobook also, and your website. And I just want to tell, because I do have foodies in my audience. So you also said you have some recipes, some very easy recipes to kind of facilitate learning to read, right? In the book.
Yeah, so we have the recipes aren't in the book, but they're on the
Oh,
website. So at mayasmart.com/resources, every
okay.
week I publish something. So there might be a list of recommended picture books for Father's Day, or different topics throughout the year. So they're book lists, family activities, and we have several read with me recipes. And so they're very
Uh-huh.
simple, maybe a smoothie or something, and it helps kids. You'll have them look at the recipe and point to all the O's, like in smoothie, and different words. And
Right.
um, you'll talk about the ooh sound that's in fruit and smoothie and different. So the recipes are more oriented toward literacy skills than like the
Literacy,
actual taste
yes,
of the recipe. But it's really
exactly.
fun
But it's
to
fun,
get in
and I
the
think it's
kitchen.
a great way if somebody's a foodie and, they want to teach their child how to read kind of using food. It's a great way to facilitate that. It's a fun way, actually, but you don't even have to be a foodie. It's just, it makes reading fun also. And I think that's the main thing too. You have to make it kind of fun for the kids, to get them into it so it's fun. And I love the way that, you do that through recipes. And also, so I just want to make sure people heard that on your website you have lots of resources, right, for literacy, for helping to read and suggested reading and things like that.
Yes. And as you mentioned, we do try to keep it fun. So this time of year, there are some great scavenger hunt kind of things that you can do, just kind of walking through your neighborhood and looking
Yes,
for different letters and shapes. And so there's so much power. I don't want parents to, again, to think that you always have to have a book in hand to
right.
teach these lessons. There's all kinds of print there, you know, even graphic t-shirts or a cereal box or whatever the
How
case may be.
about
There's
car
so many.
trips? Like if somebody's doing a car trip for the summer, right? I can remember my parents used to do something like, you would have to find something that began with a specific letter or something, as you're sitting in the back seat and all that, right? For the summer.
Looking at the different license plates, the signs
Right.
along the highway. That's a fun thing to do on the move in the summer.
Exactly. Well, that's great. Yep. I could sit here and think of millions of things too with you. So, but I'm sure you have a lot in your book and on your website. So, Maya, thank you so much for being here. And definitely, hopefully, people will take a look at your website and get the book and really get more into reading or get your kids into reading if you're not already. Thanks so much, Maya.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.